Hi guys, it's been a very interesting and intense morning at the Imperial College London. Today I'm participating online to the Policy Forum on ultra-processed food and had a fantastic chance to hear directly from the leading academics worldwide on the fight against ultra-processed food. They are mentioned in my book, Ultra-Processed Free Family Cookbook, both the UK and USA version. And we heard it this morning directly from Professor Carlo Monteiro. So there is the professor that together with his team has developed the NOVA system, a system of classification that helps us understanding the level of processing in food these days, to the point of ultra processing that I discussed in my book. And Professor Carlo Monteiro is bringing to the conversation all the evidence that we have through the studies that we now have about the link between ultra processed food and chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, but also many forms of cancers, liver fatty disease, heart problems, and other type of issues that seems less related to ultra-processed food, but actually are strongly related as cases of depression, anxieties, and hyperactivity that we often see more often in children and teenagers. We also heard from other academics that I mentioned in my book, like for example, Dr. Mathilde Touvier from the NutriNet Santé. There is a program that is going on in France. Again, this is also discussed in my book, and how the level of processing is one element or how this food is affecting our health, but also the level of additives added to the food and how much a diet high on ultra-processed food can also display many important natural nutrients, because we just don't consume the real food that will be way more beneficial for us than the ultra-processed counterpart. We also heard from another very important doctor. In this case is Dr. Ashley, let me say this particularly well, Gearhart. I hope I pronounce it properly. There is a professor in psychology, and she looks more at how this food is highly addictive and how the people that eat a diet high in ultra-processed food actually struggle to stop eating even after being diagnosed with a chronic disease, even after they are aware that actually that food is very detrimental to their health, to the point that where they can even risk their life. So she's been talking more about how the food industry has been using the same techniques or the tobacco industry on creating food that is highly addictive, and this is food that is not innocent. This is food that is being experimented in labs before landing on our supermarket shelf in order to make us craving the same food that then we get affected by. There's been also other academics and representative of the WHO, the World Health Organization, talking about how much the conversation is very much to the level where we wanted to make sure that something is happening at the global level in order to make the policy changes that can help consumers make healthy choices. And in this particular case, we have the examples of many South American countries, as Chile, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico. They are leading in policy making in this particular topic, because are the countries that have adopted a right-based approach, the right of consumers to know what they are consuming. And they're doing that by adding black labels on ultra-processed food, highlighting the content that this food is having, and in particular the additives that can be more harmful to the health of consumers. And I think that they have already evidence that there's been a decrease in sale without affecting necessarily job losses, which is one of the main, let's say, point that often governments find to justify, let's say, the lobbying of multinational corporations, and to justify their laziness on introducing policies that could make the consumers more informed about the food that they're consuming. We also had some perspectives on more UK-based policies ideas. For instance, Professor Franco Rossi talking about how possibly a higher taxation for this food can be a solution in the UK, but also how possibly introducing more program in schools, particularly in children, highlighting the differences between a real food and ultra-processed food, and also how to introduce cooking skills in a more and more time sick society. We lack time, and we also lack cooking skills. So definitely including children in our conversation, which is also the approach that I use in my book, particularly if you've been following me, you know that we need to introduce children to real food and to cooking as a life skill, as like brushing their teeth. And this is very important, because this food is not just innocent, it is harmful but also is highly marketized to children. And this is also an aspect that the policymakers are trying to highlight, how we should make sure that this the marketization of this food is controlled, particularly when it comes to food targeting children and teenagers. So this is a summary of the morning. I hope you find some interesting aspect of it. I'm definitely finding all of this very interesting, and I will try to summarize the afternoon session. Now is almost the end of the lunchtime break, so I will let you know what happens in the afternoon. Yes, bye for now.